Hello, and welcome back to our continuing Settlement Survival Let's Play Series Season 2. I'm Larry, and it's Episode 9. And as you can see, I've done a little bit more building, but today's episode is more about the mistakes that I've made on this map. Now, I did receive a lot of comments yesterday, and here I was thinking, this map looks hideous, blah, 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 but everybody's like, oh, they like the trees and all that. Because I'm so used to building things to where if something's growing, then I'm losing production space. So that's a habit that I'm trying to get out of. So I do appreciate all the comments. And Honeywell made a comment about fish, which started getting me thinking. Because no matter what tweaks I've done with the fields, I'm still having the feast and famine issue. And I started thinking about it, and it's just like, you know what? What if this game is more based around the livestock as the main provider of food to where agriculture just supplements it? And I started thinking, and I was looking at the, first series, and I'm looking at stuff, and I'm like, holy crap, how did I miss this? And overall, it is the livestock that really is the engine to our colony. And I looked at the fishes, and yeah, right now I have a huge pathing issue. When I just plopped this thing down just a short time ago, and the people have to path from the other side of the map. So these numbers aren't good. But in the last series, I had both of these for the enhancements, and each fish pond was doing an average of 1,300 fish a year. And I'm just like, wow. Because I sit there and look at something like this, and you have to remember, that's with just two people. So I'm, I look at this one, and even though this is, it is a normal field, but for the size of the field, the number of workers that I have, it's not even coming close to what this is doing. And then I started looking at my livestock numbers from the first series, and I'm like, oh, this is so lopsided. So yeah, I've made that mistake, because right now I'm in the vicious circle of feast and famine with my crops. And I am producing fertilizer, but even with this plantation going, I think the best crop I've pulled out of this so far has been like 1,300. And so I was just like, Urgh. But then I started looking at this, and it's just like, wow, I've totally messed this thing up. And instead of having my workers, with their houses over here, I should have broken this up and put housing in the middle of each one of these fields. Have the storage close by, but since I'm having the marketplaces intertwine with everything, there's no reason for me not to have the workers in between each field. Because then what happens? They immediately jump out of their house, go to their crop, work on it, go to storage, and then if they have to bail to go get, clothes or tools or something, so be it. But once I open up the skill for home delivery, the vendors are going to come in and place food, water, and fuel in the houses. Now, the fuel will be irrelevant because with how I'm placing down boiler rooms, the housing's not going to need fuel. But you see where I'm going with this? Because like on the previous series, I always had what is now called the apartment, which was the boarding house, next to my fields, and I could never get the farmers to move out. And that was because they were right next to their workstation, so they were a happy clam. But unfortunately, I took a hit in breeding because the farmers are just like, oh, the heck with it. I'm in a building where, no sex is allowed, so, you got to deal with this. So that's a fix I need to put in here. Now, this is going to be kind of a sore subject, but once again, I'm going to talk about the quarries. Now, one of two things is going on here, because I kicked myself in the butt for how I place these things. I should have, since I want to keep everything intertwined, one, I should have put spacing between these things and put housing. That's number one. My mistake, my bad. And this comes down to either this is a bug in the game, and hear me out, or we have a translation problem, because it says it cannot be removed after it is built. Okay. I'm not building this. I have it on pause. Okay. They have not delivered any item to it. It's, it is as it sits right after I placed it. Now, if you notice, if I hit cancel, nothing happens when it should. I have it selected. See? I have it selected. Nothing's going on. So if I would do this with a house right there, nothing's going on with it. I have it on pause. Game's running, but I can turn around and cancel it. But thanks, Rain. But I cannot do that with the quarry. And then if I turn around and try to demolish it, what does it say? This building cannot be demolished. So one of two things are happening here, because all we've done is place. So it says cannot be removed. But after that, it says after it is built. And this is where I'm thinking we have a translation issue. And it should say placed. Now, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because we do have new viewers, or I should say new players watching the series. So I just want to highlight this to them, because once you place a mine or a quarry down, there's nothing you can do with it. You can't remove it. So is this a bug or is this a translation issue? If it's a translation issue, then they need to replace with place or placed. If it's not a translation issue, then one, allow us to remove it. But if it is a translation issue, then the cancel button needs to be removed from the UI, because it's so confusing. And all I'm asking is, hey, Gleamer, can you take a look at this? Because I know it's in the forums, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but I'm just thinking of the brand new players for the very first time, and they place something like this down, and they're probably racking their brains like, because some people don't read the forums or anything like that. And there are some people that actually don't watch YouTube. So this needs to be addressed. And that's, I'm not ranting. I'm just putting it out there. If it is placed, then remove the cancel button. But if it does mean by cannot be removed after it is built, then get the cancel button to work, or get the demolish to work on these. That's all I'm saying. But moving on. What I should have done is I really wanted to put houses in between here. And that's my bad, because I wanted to, I didn't even think about it when I was placing them, because I was in my old build mode of let's just jam it together. And I made that mistake. Now the cool thing is over here where I put these down, I can cancel these out and get housing in here. Now the cool thing is it won't let me build this right up to the edge. You can only have a road and then build. So I can actually place housing right here in the middle. But I'm also planning on having a row of trees, then a road, and then housing, and then trees. Something like that. It's going to be tree. I'm not even sure what I'm going to do yet. Maybe housing, trees, housing. That might be a more efficient way of doing it. Probably, but then again, I wanted to, anyway, I'm ranting. Forget it. So, but I plan on wanting to have 2 villas here. So, yeah. Because that'll give me all the people I need to man one of these fields. Because if I put 2 villas in, then since each field takes 4 workers, each villa will hold 4 adults? So 2 villas would fully staff 2 fields. So yeah. So that is another mistake that I made. Another mistake I made is here I was going to do brute force and get development points. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, that is just such a dumb thing to do. Because, one, the amount of people I need over here is just crazy. I'm having to have the boiler rooms as well. So I should have only thought about just using maybe 6 or 3, 6, 7, 8. I could have gotten away with just one group of 8 and then support it with the paper and book industry. Because I started looking at the old series and all that, and it's just like building this many research academies was just dumb. Because in order for me to support all of these things with paper and books, would be astronomical undertaking. It would be absolutely ridiculous. And for the amount of space that I'm taking up for the actual research points that I'm getting out of it, it's not worth the land. So don't make my mistake and then having these things so far away. I mean, I could have done the same exact thing with one boiler room. I could have fully heated these things up with no issue. Right now I'm to have to use 2 boiler rooms for the number that I'm using here. So, I have 8 running along here and using 2 boiler rooms. And then their house pathing it gets to be harder. So I need to get this fixed as well. So please don't make that mistake. When it comes to selecting skills, everybody has arguments over this of what is the best skill to pick up at the very beginning of the game. And, of course, it also depends on what level of the game you're playing at. To me, I'm still sold on the very first skill is the police station. It is because it's either the first or second skill. You either go with the police station or you go with the sawmill. One of those two. But I always pick up the police station way, way, way before I pick up the medical skills. Because do I burn 1 skill or 1 point, or do I burn 2 points? And to me, it's a whole lot faster just to banish someone And plus I also get a, what, it's what, a 20%? I think it's a 20%. Citizens happiness plus 20%. So I get a happiness bonus. So, it's one of those things. But where I made my huge mistake was I should not have gone down and picked up the plantation and the corrals. The very first ones that I should have attacked is I should have got the fish pond. And for the fish pond, it needs bricks, it needs cut stone, and it needs sand. So I should have picked up those corresponding skills right after or right before I went after the fish pond, because I realize now the fish pond, if I had a dozen of these things down right now, I would not be having the food issues that I'm having. And from what it looks like is nothing affects fish ponds. As far as I know, I have not yet seen anything. If you have the upgrades on the fish pond, I don't think anything affects it. Because once you have the reinforcement down, you don't have to worry about tornadoes. And none of the livestock were affected by the flood. So I'm going to, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think floods affect fish ponds either. So in the grand scheme of things, this is probably the safest item we can have as far as a food generator on the map. So food for thought. To me, I claim it as a mistake from myself because I don't like making excuses. And I should have known better. I played this game long enough to where I should have absolutely known better. So food for thought for new players. It's something you may really want to consider picking up. Now, I also ran a test with the transfer stations. And you know how we'll shoot a satellite around a planet to get out to the further edge of the solar system? Well, that's what we can do with the food and whatever products that we have. And I did that with, I used the transfer station over here to, where's it at? Right here. And I put dried animal dung in here, and I reset all my warehouses to where only this one accepted dry animal dung. And then I put a production building. I deleted it already, but I put a production building and a supply station over here. So the poop started over here, went here, bounced. With this rain, it's hard to see. Bounced in, landed here, and then got sent way over here. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. So you can basically somewhat link these things together, and it works. And then I also tried putting two transfer stations side by side, and I set with how I set it up. I put the animals, and I did this on a different map. But I put the animals on the right side. I put a transfer station, and then I put the fertilizer factory right next to it, and then I put in another transfer station. And the funny thing is they put the dung in here, and then they did the fertilizer, and since there was a gap between the two, it was easier for them to deliver the fertilizer to this one, and then this one shot it out. So this one had the filter to allow for storage. This had the filter for not allowing it. And so I'm still trying to figure out the spacing on where it has the preference. But I had the fertilizer factory right up against the other transfer station. So I'm playing with that right now to see how far I can take that. But yeah, so that's something you might want to try and play around with. But the transfer station is a pretty, it's a nice thing to have. And so where else did I make my mistakes? Okay. When it comes to setting up your housing, think of having villas. So if you're going to put down a house, try to put down 2 houses, because the villa is a 4x6 space. So by having 2 houses placed next together, you'll be able to put down a villa and have 2 spaces for trees. And since sandstorms are going to be big in the game, from my understanding, then that's going to give you more trees in your area. And it also makes for a nicer looking build. And then if you're going to put in 2 villas, 3 villas will, of course, that's only 12 spaces. So remember to add a couple more spaces so you can separate the villas so you can have trees in the middle. So that's another building tip I'd like to give new players. Another building that you're going to want to go for as time allows, and that is to get into, it's here in education, and it's this building right here, the boarding school. The boarding school will solve a lot of your headaches as far as kids are concerned. Because one, boarding schools can be placed anywhere. They don't have to be within the circle. But it keeps the kids from pathing to school. So it reduces the time it takes for these kids to educate. Plus, they're out of the house, which gives the adults more room to breed. So if you really want to improve your breeding ability, and I'm not talking about as far as considering stress, I'm just talking straight up breeding ability. This is an extremely powerful building to get your breeding going better. Another thing is the apartment buildings, as they're renamed now, the luxury apartment buildings are, if you're going to do a tight build, they're a godsend. Because with the amount of people that you can put in these things, you can have tight quarters. But the other great thing is they're also a great backup for old people. So if you can't build retirement homes, these are a great way of getting your old people out of houses. So that's food for thought. And I think I've pretty much covered my huge mistakes that I've made, and you really want to be careful of. So I'm going to call it for this episode. If please, like yesterday, a bunch of people commented, and it's enabled me to redefine the strategy of how I'm going to build. So even just an offhand comment can actually improve the game for me and improve the game for everybody else. So please keep the comments coming. And I may not be able to react to it, but it gives me food for thought to where I can build on your idea and possibly implement it in the game. Likes are awesome. And we did actually hit the 60 follower mark right before I started recording this episode. So for everybody that is following the channel, I thank you. I appreciate it. Now just give me more comments. So I will talk to you all later, and you have an awesome day. I'm going to have an awesome day. I'm going to do some more work on the map and get some more things changed around, and hopefully I'm going to be able to show you some really cool things that I've got changed, and we can get better and better. So I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.